Hey, David, since I follow you, why don't you start in the program?
You want to unmute yourself, David. David, unmute yourself.
Still mute.
Huh. Okay.
Okay, you're good. You're good now.
No, it's exciting to meet with you all and to answer questions, get into some of your hopes and dreams, and hear a little bit about your career plans and so on. But yeah, just in terms of sharing a little bit about the appreciative inquiry and the focus on positive institutions and flourishing enterprise, I think for those of you thinking seriously about coming into this field, I think it's a very, very special time in this field. It's a time to rethink human organization, to rethink change. And you just reflect on the past, I don't know, 10 months or so when, we started with wildfires throughout the world in January, and then a pandemic emerges, and then a global economic crash emerges, and then the upswing in the pandemic, and then all the climate change issues. We are in a stage where we really have to be able to pull out the best in humanity, and every institution, every industry is being reinvented right now. So with the appreciative inquiry, it's grown to become very much part of a broad scale movement to say that maybe change happens through optimal states, that through the study of what gives life to human systems when they're most alive, people develop a capability to have conversations about their hopes and dreams and so on. And so in the opening course that I do, I introduce the appreciative inquiry, and then the whole positive psychology of human strengths and flourishing. The research base there has just grown tremendously over the last couple decades. It's one of the most remarkable times, I think, ever in the human sciences. And we really value bringing theory and practice together. Just, in terms of a couple of the ideas, practice ideas behind appreciative inquiry. One is the realization that strengths do more than perform like an orchestra performs, but strengths transform. And so a lot of what we get into is this strength-based perspective. Peter Drucker, he was considered the father of management thought. And I remember meeting with him. He wanted to hear about our work with appreciative inquiry. He was 93 years old at that time. And at the, and he kept asking questions about our work with the United States Navy, with Apple, with all the different companies. And at the end, I had a chance to ask him, here's the person who's written more on leadership and change than anybody. And I said, could you put it in a nutshell? What is leading change all about? And he said, David, that's easy. The task of leadership is to create this alignment of strengths in ways that make a system's weaknesses irrelevant. And I wrote it down, the task of leadership is to create this alignment of strengths in ways that make a system's weaknesses irrelevant. Well, that's a wonderful bridge to appreciative inquiry in its practice terms, because appreciative inquiry, it begs the question, if leading change is largely about strengths and combinations effects, then where are the tools for the rapid elevation of not just human strengths, but technical and strategic and natural strengths? And so appreciative inquiry, we get into tools and methods and the spirit of design thinking that's involved with it. And it's been exciting. Again, we do really believe in uniting theory and practice every one of our faculties in the field doing this work. So, you know, Ron and I had opportunity to bring this at the highest levels of the United States Navy. Admiral Clark, when he was head of the Navy, said, can we do strategic planning using appreciative inquiry, and bringing 500, you know, E5 sailors and admirals into the room? We said yes, and worked with you know, companies locally that have really thrived with appreciative inquiry, which like Sherwin-Williams and Swagelock and others. We, you know, have done work with companies like Johnson & Johnson, and real exciting work with Apple Corporation, looking at social responsibility and sustainability kinds of things. So, you know, one of the most exciting for me was when the Secretary General of the United Nations called, and Kofi Annan wanted to host the largest meeting in the history of the UN between businesses and CEOs and all around the world, every single continent. And with the United Nations, it was the largest meeting of its kind to say, how can we begin to unite the strengths of markets with the power of universal values, you know, human rights, gender equality, the goals of transitioning to a brighter, greener economy, sustainable development goals, and so on. And so what was wonderful was to be able to, again, in the applied sense, bring some of our master's students to that meeting at the United Nations, that summit that we led with 700 CEOs. So we brought doctoral students like Jesse and others from Case Western. And what I guess the point I want to make is it's life-changing and career-changing. Every single person on that team had their life changed as they saw a new hope about what companies could be, about what could happen if we collaborate around some of these global goals, eradicating extreme poverty in the world, creating cultures of peace through better institutions. So that's, I guess, just a little bit. I think others can share a little bit more about our work. I'm the faculty chair of the center, Fowler Center for Business as an Agent of World Benefit. And we have over 6,000 stories in our data bank around business as a force for peace in high conflict zones, and business as a force for eradication of extreme poverty, business as a force for this once in a civilization type of economic transformation from a fossil fuel economy to a 100% clean renewable energy world. So, you know, we do this work with whole cities, with Mayor Jackson. We've done 10 years of a project called Building a Green City on a Blue Lake using the appreciative inquiry methodologies. We have done this work with whole industries, like helping the whole dairy industry become more sustainable and effective. And in the companies we're working with, what we're seeing is just how alive the human element comes when their company raises the bar in terms of high purpose and significance. And I honestly think this next, you know, we've kind of been sleepwalking as a human family for about 3 or 4 decades on the climate agenda, for example, and it's huge. But the companies that are leading the way and leading their industries, the other thing we're finding is that by them focusing out there, guess what happens to the inside of the company? You know, people come alive and innovation happens and so on. So we have a lot of research and books that we will bring into our classes. But I honestly think that when I look back at when I made a decision to enter this field, that was about 1976. I just have never looked back. I feel like it was like I was under a lucky star to find this field. I feel like it's, and it's and the creativity in the field has never been higher. And in part, it's because of the call of our times. And we're literally going to be reinventing every industry, every institution. And you know, the issues are difficult, you know, working on anti-racism, working to bring polarized groups together. But that's what OD is about. So that's just a little bit there.
Well, kind of piggyback, I'd like to build off of the point David was making about theory and practice. The MPOD program has always taken the view that good theory does inform practice, but practice also informs theory. And as he mentioned, all of us on the faculty are out practicing and developing theories and tools based on our practice and on the practices of the communities that we're a part of. The other way that we manifest this, the MPOD program is deeply rooted in what we call experiential learning. And it's not simply learning from experience. It's a deeper concept that was pioneered by a former colleague of ours, David Kolb, who's a retired emeritus professor. And the idea of experiential learning is that we internalize something only after we're able to experience, reflect, abstract, and apply. And so throughout the program, in the various courses and in the whole flow of the residencies, there are spaces for absorbing theory and abstractions, for actually analyzing and searching for solutions or applications, for reflecting on ideas and experiences, and for doing, for actually getting hands-on and applying what you're learning. We do that partly through your own settings, so that in various courses and in your field projects, there's the idea of contributing right during the program, not waiting till after the program to apply something, but applying it right away. And that's true in all of the different themes: the coaching and leadership theme, the strategy and consulting theme, the themes that David was introducing, the positive change facilitation. For my example, I teach a course called a practicum in positive change. And so we take the concepts that you learn about appreciative inquiry and the assignment that you apply in your own workplace, and we form temporary consulting teams, and we send you into organizations to further develop your skills with the appreciative inquiry method. And we've gone into just dozens of organizations in our region, ranging from the Lakewood Fire and Police Departments to ArcelorMittal Steel Mill, to Progressive Insurance, to all of our health institutions, Metro Health, university hospitals, the clinic, and nonprofit organizations, the Catholic Diocese, Shoes and Clothes for Kids. So there's a wide variety of real-time, hands-on application where you're helping these organizations to actually deal with some issue or opportunity that they would like to advance or speed up or expand or simply launch in a more effective, what we call whole system way. So I love that course. I think that the opportunity to apply something in real time with real-time pressure brings out its own learning. And we learn both about the practice of the appreciative inquiry method, but we also learn about how to function in highly time-pressured task teams. The students love to refer to it as Hell Week. but it is intense. We have long days, but the payoff is, I think, remarkable for the learners as well as the organizations. And then just another example of this experiential approach. I also teach a course that's nicknamed the International Study Tour. The real idea there is to explore multicultural dimensions of organization development. And we can read about that. We can have people present and talk about it. But the real experience for me is going somewhere and immersing into a multicultural setting. So now it's not true this year because of the pandemic and the travel restrictions, but ideally and normally we would partner with a similar OD-based certificate program in Europe. And we go there for a week. We immerse ourselves with other learners and we learn together through a workshop and an organization simulation. And then we go out and together we explore issues in company site visits. So it's just another example of the emphasis or the priority that we put on completing a learning cycle, not just introducing concepts, not just solving cases or having kind of conceptual conversations about what would you do, but actually giving you opportunities to do it and then to reflect and build your lessons from that. I've personally been with every single MPOD and former version MOD, we called it, Masters of Organization Development, since the beginning, except 1 year when I was on sabbatical. And it's one of the reasons I came to this department, one of the bigger reasons, that and the doctoral program. I just felt that this master's degree was not only needed, but that we really were a flagship program that was kind of leading the way for other programs. And I think the only other thing I want to say is, and again, I think David alluded to this, not only are the faculty all in the field as well as developing and conducting research and contributing to the knowledge base, but we all work with what's current for us. It may be a little too strong to say it's all homegrown, but in many ways it is. What you learn in the coaching and leadership area is being pioneered by Richard Boyatzis, Ellen Van Oosten, Melvin Smith, who are on the faculty. What you're learning about positive change was co-created here in our department with David, myself, and some other colleagues. What you learn when Harlow teaches strategy, he uses a simulation that he's created, field tested, and developed. So we try to bring the research-oriented work that we're doing directly into the class as it's being developed, so that we're current and topical. As David said, perhaps there's had never been a greater time for organization development to help address these really knotty issues that we face. So I'm excited always to see the next group and to help the cohort kind of move through the program. Thanks. I'll go to Chris.
Thank you, David and Ron. Just to build a little on what they've said, and really, Ron, your last point that there's never been a better time to get the kind of skills that you'll get in this program to help you both personally and professionally address some of the big social and global challenges that we face, you know, for everything from pandemics and climate change to systemic racism, you know, reducing social inequality. These are things that organizations are being asked to play a role in, and that's very different from what they've had to do in the past. And so the kind of technical skills that so many other master's programs teach, you know, when I say technical, I'm talking about, you know, learning the strategy and marketing and operations and supply chain and, you know, what are often called business fundamentals. Those remain important. But I think we're at this critical point right now in history where businesses are being expected to not just make a profit in ways that do less harm for society, but are actually expected to find solutions to social and health and global problems. And this notion of flourishing and flourishing enterprise represents a pretty significant shift in how businesses think about social responsibility. You know, up until very recently, social responsibility, giving, you know, future generations the same opportunity that present generations have, or living and working in such a way that doesn't reduce the opportunities for future generations, was fine when there was a world where we had a lot of opportunities, and that's what we wanted to give to future generations. But as the world becomes more fraught, I think business, you know, playing this role of being an agent of world benefit, and instead of just reducing a negative footprint, having a positive handprint on society becomes more important. So, you know, just give you one example that makes it very clear. You know, many businesses will tell you, particularly bigger businesses that have a carbon footprint, they will tell you, oh, we have this tremendous goal to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% in the next, you know, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. And that sort of goal is important, and it's good to see. But unfortunately, you know, we're living in a world where, in spite of all these efforts, the absolute amount of carbon in the atmosphere continues to go up every year, year after year after year. You know, we're now at 415 parts per million. An atmosphere which climate scientists have said puts us on a dangerous path. What we need to have business leaders understand is that there's a fundamental distinction between doing less harm, which means you're still going in this direction. I mean, I visually want to show it as, you know, if this is the direction of doing harm, then when you are cutting the harm, you're still going in this direction, but you're just going more slowly. Or, you know, what our colleague John Ehrenfeld calls reducing the rate of unsustainability. That's very different from creating flourishing, which is, you know, or making a positive impact, which is about improving human well-being or contributing to a regenerative natural environment, or creating prosperity, you know, in the communities that an organization is working in. So, you know, these are urgent questions that institutions face today. And this notion that David and Ron and others are advancing on positive institutions that refract the strengths outwards, engage systems in change that is aimed at creating a better world, is so important. And it does require different sets of skills. So in my course on flourishing enterprise, I cover some of the this type of strategy tools and build on some of the work that Harlow does in understanding how to manage value creation from a societal perspective. But I also focus on skills that leaders need to change at a deep level of self-concept, or what's called, at the deep level of their identity. And they do this not just by intellectualizing who they are. This is about giving you as students, as future leaders, the opportunity for direct, intuitive experiences of wholeness and connectedness through a variety of practices that change you at this deep level, so that at the end of a program like this, it's not just that you learn to do things differently, it changes you at the level of who you are being. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of students take away that's really valuable here, is that skills such as renewal and resilience and creativity to change at the level of the whole. Some of the relational skills that you learn through appreciative inquiry are not skills that you find in many other programs, and they're not specifically linked to institutional change at the level of the whole. So it teaches you to be better change managers. It teaches you to relate differently to people and organizations, but I think it also transforms who you are as a person, or at least that's the goal, and that's the feedback that we get from students who are fully engaged in this. That's just some of the thoughts that I wanted to share. I personally am very excited. Let me just finish by saying, I've been teaching this for 20 years. And when I started, the whole notion of business as an agent of world benefit, David was already courageously putting that idea almost 20 years out there, 20 years ago. But there was a lot of skepticism and there wasn't a lot of data. And we've seen such huge change in the right direction that in fact, there's an enormous amount to be encouraged about, not just in terms of individual companies that are leading the way, but in terms of the ability for businesses to not just do well by doing good, but to do even better by doing good. And the idea of greater purpose, the idea of creating workplaces where people can feel deeply connected to their own life purpose, have high quality relations with those around them, and be working in service of a greater good, is something that is actually extremely good for business. So this idea that was still very much around 20 years ago, that companies will have to choose, you do good or you do well. I think for a number of reasons related to the capabilities that companies have developed, we are in a place now where it's increasingly the case that companies who have the right skills and have the right mindset are able to do even better than their peers by focusing on greater purpose and having cultures and leadership styles that are deeply connected to self, others, and the world around them. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm probably ready to go on and give you a whole class lecture right here, but I'll stop and turn it over either to Harlow or David or Ron to comment. And,
yeah, I think at this point it might be a good idea to maybe open it up for any questions that people might have, so that any of the three of you can respond to that. So I'm also sensitive to the amount of time that's available still, but how about if we just leave it open to those of you who have joined us this evening and ask any questions that you'd like.
Great, and I'll jump in. I noticed Anna put 2 questions in the chat box. So Anna, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, or I can read your comments as well.
Absolutely, I can do it. So I have 2 questions. Thank you for welcoming me the second time, and it's it's been very informative and enjoyable for me again. My first question is, Ron, you referred to that practicum week, and I hope I captured the term correctly, the Hell Week. So how would the practicum piece would look like this year? I mean, 2021, especially for the international students. I think I can consider myself an international student. I'm in Canada. And, you know, that trip to Europe, how do you envision those pieces of the program unfold?
I don't want to envision the trip to Europe yet. It's just too far away and too many uncertainties. The practicum will be virtual. Mm-hmm. I mean, there will be some people here on campus, and like you, some people on Zoom. So in your teams, you'll be working in both media together. And then with the companies, you'll be virtual.
Okay.
So you'll be doing AI interviews and then theming that information and then feeding it back in a virtual kind of setting or intervention. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think, you know, just in the last, well, what's it been now? It seems like over a year. It hasn't been quite that long, has it? Since we've, you know, had to go into this world of Zoom and these other platforms, actually in the AI community of practice, there have been just a large number of experiments and applications, and so we're seeing we're not seeing the limitations of that form as much as some of us would have thought or predicted ahead of time. So we're going to carry out the practicum with organizations, and it will be primarily virtual. Yeah.
Thank you, Ron. And my second question was about the research, really the research opportunities that are there for the program students, given that it's not a PhD program, but still, I'm wondering.
I don't know if Harlow wants to field that. It's possible in your individual projects and in the new mastery themes that we have, it's possible, I think, to design something that includes research.
I would confirm that that is definitely a possibility.
And Anna, there's definitely research requirements in individual classes. So for example, in my class on flourishing enterprise, there's a fairly significant research paper that's required. And I think that's probably true for David, your class, and for others as well. And, you know, there's very good quality students where we get papers that I would say are equal to, or in some case better, if you look at it from a practitioner scholar perspective, than what you get at the PhD level.
Thank you, everybody.
Any other questions or comments for our three speakers this evening?
You know, I would be interested to hear from all of you who are online here about you know, what needs you see in the face of the great instability that we have in society today. And there's such a sense of divisiveness and fragmentation and othering. You know, I feel like there's a great need for people to be able to heal themselves and make themselves whole, really almost at the end of every day. You know, many of us are suffering from election anxiety or pandemic anxiety, or many things combined. And I just want to emphasize that at least, you know, in part of the program and certainly in part of the course I teach, I bring in, again, practices, again, this emphasis. The MPOD is experiential. It believes that you learn not only through cognitive empirical approaches, not just through moral, sort of moral values-based learning, which some other programs around the country do quite well, but that you learn through experience. And it's a particular kind of experience we're talking about. It's a discovery that allows you to come at challenges in life from a place of wholeness, place of oneness. And it's science-based. It's, you know, we draw on positive organizational scholarship, but also some unique qualities in appreciative inquiry, which, as David said, really gets at this question about what is it that gives life to organizations? What is it that brings out the best in the ordinary? And that's a little different from the positive organizational scholarship question, which typically is what does positive deviance, studying positive deviance tell us? So it studies, you know, positive organizational scholarship says if you want to understand the extraordinary, you'll study the extraordinary. And I think David's and Ron's pioneering work has been to say, let us understand what brings out the best in people, even in ordinary organizations, in organizations that have perhaps ordinary performance. And that's, I think, such a critical distinction. And in the same way, in our own lives, we have to understand how can we bring out the best in who we are in the face of a societal context that's continually, you know, working to make us feel a bit divided and you know, it's events that are forcing us to face very difficult realities. So some of the skills that you get in this program are designed to deal with, you know, unfortunately, some of the great challenges of today.
So
Are there any other questions prompted by any of the comments that either David or Ron or Chris had, or just any sort of topic you'd like to address?
I had a question, being that I am part of the CASE community, and I know several people who have graduated from the MPOD program. Have you seen an impact from the students that are part of the community on the university with the number of people that have participated? I just wondered what you see the local impact of our community.
I can contribute a little bit to that. One of our graduates wrote everything our past president ever said publicly as her executive assistant. The current executive assistant to the provost is a grad of the program and had a big role in co-authoring, obviously, the university's new strategy, Lisa Camp. The Buildings and Services Department, I'm blocking on his name right now, but he has been a steady applier of appreciative inquiry and a client for our practicum, as has been student services. So I think there are lots of examples of parts of the university where it's not at the headline level, but it's down into the offices and the actual services. Yeah.
And Barbara, we're going to miss her a lot. Barbara Snyder, just a fantastic president and just extraordinarily supportive of our work. She would come to many of the kind of very impactful pieces of work that we did throughout the city. She would often come to the Green City, Blue Lake work and open those sessions for us, or she would bring us into, I remember one of the big appreciative inquiry projects with our students was with MoCA, with the Museum of Contemporary Art. And she opened that session for us. So we're gonna miss her a lot. And you know, what I like, and just a real specific concrete one, is how we actually work this within our own school. So when we built the Fowler Center for Business as an Agent of World Benefit, and it was the students that led it. So it was a group of students from MPOD, a group of students from the MBA program, and they brought, almost 120 of us together to design that Fowler Center. And by the way, we continue with the Fowler Center work. We formed a partnership with the United Nations Global Compact and the Academy of Management. That's the big research part of the Academy. And we designed something called the Global Forum for Business as an Agent of World Benefit. And if you're interested in that concept paper, we could send it out to you. We have the 5th one coming up in October. And so we always like to get our students engaged with that. And it just brings thought leaders and all kinds of great executives together. It just, every time we do it, I feel proud about Case Western Reserve University. I loved Barbara Snyder's courageous work and pushing all of the different disciplines. One of the mantras for the university, as you know, Christine, is think beyond the possible. And I remember when I heard her say that, I thought, how can you possibly think beyond the possible? But there's just a lot of incredible resources here at this university. But yeah, it's like when we engage the students with us to design these things like the center, that's when we're at our best.
Thank you.
Chris, do you want to add one thing? And then I'm noticing there's a question from Vicky, and then we'll wrap up.
I wanted to go to the question from Vicky.
Oh yeah, perfect, perfect.
So Vicky asks, how does the MPOD tie into organizational change? Give examples of how we could use this knowledge in a leadership role in the US government. I would just start with the thought, but I think probably Harlow and Ron and David will have more light to shed on that as well. I think organizational change, as it's practiced and as I've seen it, not just in other educational institutions, but in the companies that I've worked in, is focused very much on organizational effectiveness. And organizational behavior, or there's a strand of organizational behavior that's very much concerned with unleashing the human potential, bringing out the best in human beings. I think MPOD does an extraordinary job of bringing these two together. And I think that, so in other words, it's about not having to make a choice between, is my organization going to be effective, or am I going to be able to bring out the best in people and make sure that I put as a priority that people are flourishing in the organization. I think appreciative inquiry, flourishing enterprise, and emotional intelligence, and many of the other topics from Boyatzis and many of the other topics in the program help you integrate the two, so that what you're able to do is to help organizations become more effective through creating flourishing at every level, what we call full spectrum flourishing. Flourishing at the level of individuals, the organization, and then systems. And my sense is, the feedback I've had is that there's quite a lot of appreciation from graduates who've gone through the program for that. Vicky, I don't know if that was helpful.
Yes, that was very helpful. Yes, that was very helpful.
Good, Vicki. Good.
Vicki, I'll just.
And don't hesitate to, if you want to email me or call me afterwards, if you want to discuss this more, I'd be more than happy to. I think it's a very important question you asked.
Thank you.
And Vicki, just in terms of the government work, the U.S. government, I mentioned the United States Navy, and they went on to create a center out of our work called the Center for Positive Change to train change agents throughout the Navy to deal with every kind of change agenda imaginable, like how to transition in terms of new technology and software and things like that. So very concrete. But also, we've done work with the whole scientific part of the EPA, brought all the scientists together in terms of redesigning the EPA and that work. We've had amazing graduates over the years. One of them, Carolyn Lukensmeyer from some years ago, she headed up government change for Bill Clinton during those years, and she continues to work with government agencies and so on. And then on our board of the Fowler Center, Michelle Hunt, she was a former executive, high-level executive at Herman Miller, but then she was tapped on the shoulder by Al Gore to lead Reinventing Government. And so anyway, there's a lot of resources and people to learn from, and then obviously the local work with governments, with the mayor here and so on. But lots and lots of good work have come out of this department in the domain of government and managing change.
That's very impressive, very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm noticing one more question came in from Elizabeth, and she just wanted to know a little bit more if the modules will be virtual or partially on campus for this upcoming cohort due to COVID.
I'll take that one. Is that right now what we're planning? The program is designed and planned as a hybrid program. And so what we've done is we've shortened the program and compressed it from 5 semesters down to 4, from 19 months down to 14 months. And what we did was we implemented modules so that there are 2 modules in each term, and they're designed to alternate between on-site and online, and that we want them alternating there. The on-campus ones that are designed right now, obviously we're hoping that things don't change for the worse, but if they do, I think we're well equipped based on the experience that we've had over the last, Ron was asking how long this has been going on, and I know that it started in March, so that at least for 9 months, 10 months that this has been going on. But the idea is that we have modules. The modules are not more than 4 days in a row. We've tried to position them over weekends, so it's not intruding on a person's work week as dramatically. And the idea is for them to alternate. And so that's the intent. So the intent would be at the end of January, we would be on site theoretically at this point, and it would start on a Thursday, wrap up on afternoon of Sunday, so people can head back and be back at work on Monday. And then the next session would be an online session. We've also started talking about at any point where things change for the worse, or somebody just can't make it, that we will work with the technology and IT people at both the school and the university to accommodate anybody that can't make it in. So that's the other, those are the other provisions we want to do. Did that answer your question, Elizabeth? I hope it did.
Yes, thank you.
All right. If not, we'll go to a coffee shop in Chagrin Falls and we'll just have a class there. So
not Bainbridge, Chagrin Falls.
There you go.
I'll just add that I'm currently teaching in our building, in the Dively building where MPOD will be, our executive MBAs. And, you know, it takes a little bit of getting used to the distancing part and eating at your spot and so forth. But I'll tell you, it is, it's amazing what they've done to make that a clean, sterile, safe environment. I mean, I feel safer there than almost any other place because of all the steps they've taken. So I know there's always reasons, and good ones, that some people wouldn't want to necessarily come in, at least under the current conditions. But it's a very safe, healthy place to be. It's not, I just don't feel, personally, I don't feel at risk there at all. I feel more at risk just going to the grocery store. So
they've done a, if I can say, is that the nice part is that both the administration at the university level has combined with an epidemiologist and working together to lay out the policies and the practices that they expect both faculty, staff, and students to follow. And they seem to be doing a very good job at it, much better than what I've seen in some of the newspaper articles for other schools that have been less than rigorous about the way that they've managed it. So my hope is it continues along that way. So
that's great to hear. I think everybody's kind of craving to be in person, but do it safely. So hopefully that turns out that way. But like you guys said, if we have the technology, that's good to know that, you know, it'll go either way. So thank you.
Right. Okay. All right, Jesse, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody for attending this evening, and special thanks to our faculty for joining us and sharing their wisdom and, you know, letting us know about their latest thinking on these topics. If anybody has any lingering questions, feel free to reach out to faculty, myself, or Harlow or Pat, and hopefully we can find an answer for you or talk through whatever your question is. So look forward to seeing you again at future sessions, and take care.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Bye-bye.